Ahoy there, me hearties. This be Captain Silverhook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank. Ha ha ha!
All right, here we go. This is episode 141 of the Two Old Pirates. Vinny made a special ride up here to Corpus to go and do one here, so you see my stuff in the back instead of his stuff. But today we're going to be covering the cold case of a local murder that happened in 2011 to a very important businessman named Chris Tiensch. So he was a married man with 2 children. He lived in the Austin area, very, very comfortable living, very, very wealthy. And he came down to our local beaches here in Port Aransas on his own, out of nowhere, to go ahead and go fishing. He wanted to take some time off. He was very, very stressed with some business deals that were going on. He arrived on a Sunday, September 11th, and he contacted his wife and said, "Hey, I'm here at the hotel." He checked into a Holiday Inn, and then he called her later on that night, evidently around 8 o'clock at night, saying, I caught all these fish out on the jetties, and it was a wonderful time and stuff. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you tomorrow. But we need to go backtrack a little about who Chris Tiensch was. Real important thing that he had done that all people that are watching this that have this capability now, Vinny's going to explain why this man is so important to each and every one of us.
So these days, there's a lot of different ways you can send somebody a text message on your phone. Back in the day, in the 90s and early 2000s, stuff like that, you just texted somebody, you pressed the number 7 4 times in order to get a letter S, you send somebody literal just text to a phone number. And that was limited by carrier. So if you had Sprint, you could only text somebody on Sprint. You could text it to another Sprint number because the systems, the towers, the software on the phones, it was basically proprietary.
Right, yes.
They were all developed divergently, and they didn't talk with each other. So if I had Sprint and, he's got T-Mobile or whatever, or Singular, I can't text him, and he can't text me. But what he was able to do was design the software that unified or at least the SMS system in its early years, so that you could text somebody regardless of carrier. And that was a huge deal.
So what happened is every single person that's watching this that has a cell phone, if you text anybody, the reason why you can text anybody is this guy, Chris. So he was very, very important to technology, yet he decided that he needed to take this fishing trip. Now, the reason why he took this fishing trip is he was under a bunch of pressure because he was under a legal battle at the time. He had formed a company in New Zealand called Plus SMS. And so it was a technological type firm, and he was on the board of directors and stuff. But what happened is he found that they were going to do a bump and dump of stock. So they were going to inflate the price of the stock so that people would buy in, and then those people that had the majority of the shares were going to sell out real quick, and it would crash. Well, when he found this out, he's all, "Hey, it's my company, or I'm partially owner of it, and this is not fair, this is not right." So he reported it. And so what happened is the people there got very upset, and they sat there and said, "You're fired." They had enough people, enough votes on the board to fire him. So he was actually fired from one of his own companies. That didn't sit well with him. So he sued in court. And he what? He won.
Yeah, he won.
He won. And so they were going to have to pay him God knows how much money. It's never been reported. But then they filed an immediate appeal. So Chris was kind of like stressed. And he's like, "Dude, I just need to get out of here and have some fun." So he didn't invite any other friends. All of his friends said he was a very adventurous type guy. Out of the 7 tallest peaks or mountains in the world, he had already climbed 6 of them. So he went everywhere to go fishing and to check out everything. He liked other cultures and foods and languages. So he did all these really, really fun things to go ahead and soak in life. And at the young age of 43, he was embroiled in this battle. So he goes down there. Now, the weird thing is, the following day on Monday, his wife couldn't get a hold of him. So what do you think most people would do if you didn't get a hold of somebody who was that adventurous?
I mean, give us some time, right?
Give us some time.
He just said he was going to go travel down across the state.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So,
he invented the thing that lets you text and stuff. Maybe the reception in Port A sucks. You never know.
Right. But as we found out, what did his wife do?
She called the police.
So yes, so she evidently reached out to the police and said he's missing, which doesn't make a lot of sense because this guy climbed Mount Everest. I guess for whatever reason, which has never been explained, she had to know where he was at that moment. She couldn't say, he's an adventurer, he's out fishing again or something. So she called the police. The police then respond to the Holiday Inn that he's staying at, and what do they find, Vinny?
I mean, it looked like somebody else got to him.
There was blood, they say, on the floor, on the ceiling, in the bathroom, on the shower curtain, on the lampshades, the picture frames, everywhere. And also his wallet, his keys, his cell phone were all in the room. He didn't have those, but he was missing. And his car was still parked out in the parking lot. So he did not leave voluntarily. The police got worried. They let the family know. The family came down from Austin. They put up missing posters all over Port A. And then 3 days later, what happened?
Well, they found him. Right? He was in what was it?
He was floating in the surf off St. Joe's Island.
St. Joe's, yes.
They said with a bullet wound. And in other places that I've heard, they said wounds. But none of this has really been reported to us, or the police have not. They've kept it very, very tight-lipped and quiet. I don't know why. Maybe they think that the person who perpetrated this crime, they don't want them to know how much information they know. But he was found about 8 miles away in the surf, floating face down, with at least a bullet wound or more.
They just say he was shot. They didn't say how many times.
No,
they didn't
specify. They just said
Yeah.
bullet wound, and then another one said bullet wounds. Don't know. But the thing is, somehow his body was taken out of that Holiday Inn, transferred to a boat or something, and brought 8 miles away, and it was just floating there. So it was dumped somewhere out at sea, and it just floated in and happened to hit that little bitty channel island of St. Joe's. If you've ever been here, it's a good little distance away. So he did not walk out from that hotel and do this. When he was stressed and decided to go on this fishing trip, it also came out that previous to him being fired, that there was executives in the company that had made emails that said, put a bullet in Tiensch. So that raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, were they going to put out a hit on this guy because he was, suing them? So before he was fired, that was already there. Now, what happened was the FBI was called in, the Texas Rangers were called in, and the local police were called in. So it wasn't just like a little bitty local thing where a guy was murdered, we'll look into it. They had heavy hitters here. And they said that when they looked into us, they said that is a saying that they have.
Yeah, it's like a phrase. It's an idiom.
Yeah, they said it's a phrase that they have down there of like when something's over, like let's axe that show. So we're going to end that show. So put a bullet in Tiensch meant we're going to fire him eventually. That's what they said. And the Texas Rangers, the FBI, and the local cops all did. That sounds about right. I guess the Kiwis just talk different than us. When they say, let's put a bullet in him, that means we're going to fire him eventually. So since that was said in emails previous to him being fired, they said it couldn't have been that they wanted to kill the guy because they didn't kill the guy. They just fired him. Irregardless, he was found dead with a bullet wound, and it says put a bullet in him. So that just jives a really weird way. It's not like they said put a noose around his neck or poison him with hemlock or something like that. But right after his body was found, he was declared dead, plus SMS that had the lawsuit against them, and they had appealed, and that was going on. What did they do?
They just paid out to the wife instead. They
dropped the appeal,
and then they just said we're going to pay Mrs. Tiensch. Here, you can have the however much the settlement was. So
the company that disliked him so much that they fired him from his own company, and then he sued and won, and they appealed it saying, we do not want to pay you a penny. We're not going to do this. After he dies, they have a reconsideration, and they reach out to the court saying, we want to drop the appeal. We're going to pay it all. The whole thing. Not 10, not 20, not 40, not 70. The whole thing to his wife and 2 children. Which sounds like a very nice thing. But in business, people don't make money by being nice. They're there to make money. So something had to have happened where they decided, we're going to do this. It's a New Zealand company. They're American. It's not going to look bad to Americans what New Zealand does to this one family. In New Zealand, it might look bad, but it doesn't matter. That's in New Zealand. Here in America, it doesn't matter. So they gave her all the money that he had requested. So either A, they're a benevolent, beautiful, loving company that wanted to fire him because they were pump and dump in stocks.
That's the Enron
or
thing,
there's
right?
Yes.
Pump and dump,
Yeah. Or they're doing something nefarious, and we don't know why. As of September of this past year, it was 14 years, so now we're working into year 15 of the murder of Chris Tiensch. And I've seen multiple updates on Channel 3, Channel 6 up in Corpus Christi, and it's not moved a hide or hair anywhere to the public that they found any more information. The person who was the cop that was on duty that went in and I believe actually investigated some of this, he's now the lieutenant in Port Aransas, so he's moved all the way up the ranks. He's still there after all these years, and he said he still hopes that this will be solved someday. But the final thing that I wanted to say is that the Texas Rangers evidently went to the Dallas office of this SMS company, sat down with the executives there and came out of the meeting saying, after talking to them, we really truly believe that they had nothing to do with this. They seem very down to earth. And that's it. That's the story of Chris Tiensch, a guy who changed the world for hundreds of millions of people so that I can take this and text anybody and it'll go straight to them. Yeah. And it doesn't have to like wire through something else. He did that. And he's been going on 15 years now. For the public and for family members, nothing has been solved. Evidently, nothing has gotten closer. And that's why it's called a cold case, because it's just sitting there. How does somebody that famous, that noteworthy, that did so much for so many people go fishing in the small, quaint town of Port A and is brutally murdered in his hotel room? You have to take with all the blood that happened. And then his body's dumped. And they're like, the police said it was neither revenge nor jealousy, nor a hit. Nothing, yeah. They just said it was a homicide, probably. Hopefully someday they'll be able to solve that for us. But anyways, for the Tool Pirates, I'm Eric.
I'm Vinny.
And I hope that you enjoyed episode 141, and we'll be back real soon. Peace. Hold on, how do we do that?
Oh, there it is. I don't know. Happy Valentine's Day. It's not.
Oh, son of the beach.
Give us a good review on Yelp. There you go.
And then how do we get the...
I think if you do the horn... Yeah, there you go. Yeah, here we go. Skrillex is on the stage.